Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, joined by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett, and our very special guest this week, Monte Moore. Monte, welcome to the show. So
Thanks
tell
for
us,
having
Monte,
me.
what's your day? You one of the things I love about Monte, if you don't know him, you'll want to know him, but he changes his name on Twitter. Like, I don't know if you have a schedule or what makes you do it, but you have a new name today.
Yes. So I typically change it every week. Generally, it's something relating to what we talk about on our show with Sam and Aaron, which is Last Call Lambo. So this week, our show comes out. It was out today, but I'm Carney Aaron Rodgers this week because I showed Dawn before we started recording today that picture of him in the locker room after the Bears game last weekend. He looks like he's operating a carnival Ferris wheel. He's got the cut off tank, like the sleeves cut off tank top, the baseball cap, the scruffy beard. So that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that picture.
I love the podcast because I usually listen to it while I'm eating lunch, like the day that it comes out. So I got through about half of it today. I would say I wasn't ready for it today. It was great. So really good episode. It was comforting like a chicken tender. So
yes, exactly.
Really solid stuff as always. No, I love your guys' podcast. It's a lot of fun.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, how was everyone's week? How was your week, Monte? Anything interesting besides that this week?
Pretty typical week for me, actually. I was it's officially fall now. I'm in Phoenix, so we're just now getting into where it's cooling off a little bit. We're done with the 110 degree days. So right now the warmest it'll get is about 100. So this is the sweet spot.
Super comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is our hot weather. September is hot for San Diego.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are. I know Dawn, you're in San Diego, and Matt, you're in Ohio, so you're still real muggy out there, I'm sure.
Well, it was weird because on Tuesday and Wednesday we had like record-breaking temperatures up in the 90s, and then suddenly first day of spring, like we're in a simulation. I think we might be. It suddenly was in the 60s for the high. I was like, okay, somebody flip the switch, and that's how we know.
That's the Midwest for you. I lived most of my life in Illinois, so I know all about that. As soon as late September hits, it's like you move to a different state almost.
Yeah, exactly. But it was delightful because we were talking about this before the show. We had dinner at a place tonight. My family did at a burger place with outside seating, and it was just like the perfect temperature, and it feels like football weather. It was really
got the hoodie on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
my favorite sweaters on. Shorts and a sweater. That's my favorite right there.
There you go.
So tell us about that place. Where were you, Maddie?
Yes. A local place called Nation. It was named after Carrie Nation, who was a temperance person. She would actually go to bars with a hatchet and like destroy the bars, like just walk in and like violently take down these places that serve the devil's liquid. And when she got the story is that she got to Cincinnati, she was like, you know what? There's too many bars here. I'm not even gonna just forget it.
I don't get paid enough for this. Yeah.
Exactly. Next city. So the bar named themselves Nation after her. Fantastic burger place. Sponsors. What do you think, Nation? But yeah, really great outdoor seating, great burgers, great selection of beers on tap, and like a good place to take kids because of the outside seating, the outside stuff, and it's right across from a really amazing park that's like built like a castle. My kids call it the Epic Park. It's so cool.
Aww.
Sounds epic.
It is indeed. And Dawn, how was your week?
It's kind of a blur. Let's see. Right now, Tosh is over at my friend's house. I'm going to have to dash right after we're done recording, go get her. Well, not go get her, spend a second night with her over there. Had some work done on the apartment over the last couple of days. So I just popped in here to record the podcast and then take off. So she's probably thinking I left her there for the rest of her life. She wasn't handling it very well yesterday. She kept me up all night. And then when I woke up this morning, I had a headache. And I thought I was taking Excedrin, and I took a Benadryl, so I've been groggy all day.
Slight difference.
No, I didn't realize. I mean, I chew my medication because I can't swallow it.
Really?
So I knew as soon as it went down, I was like, that was not aspirin. Yeah. Yeah, I knew it right away. So I'm a little sleepy, but I had a good day, had a fun day with my friend. Had a nice lunch. All
It's
that.
Friday. It's hard to
Friday.
have a bad Friday.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard
Indeed.
for me to have a bad day in general.
On the way to the restaurant, I was like, you know what? Friday feels like a celebration. Friday night feels like a celebration of the week. You just kind of, you're sliding into that feeling of like, yes, we made it. We did it, folks.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I have a couple of friends that we've got a long standing group text, and every Friday I send the group text on Friday morning. It's Friday, we made it. I send it every single week because it just feels good to make it to Friday.
Yeah, you're right. And it feels really good to not be watching that Thursday night football game anymore. Was that the most boring game? I was watching it and I was thinking it's kind of close. Am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. It's kind of close. It should be a more exciting game. But was it super boring?
It was. I think it didn't do itself any favors around the fact that last week Thursday night football was the Chiefs and the Chargers.
True.
So
True.
how are you gonna top that, right? So even though it was a divisional game, it's just a much less exciting division, and definitely two much less exciting teams. So, but it was a close game until probably about the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It just didn't have the same feel. I agree.
Well, I mean, with the quarterbacks that are playing, it's like you can't expect something too exciting.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky versus Jacoby Brissett is not exactly must-see TV.
Yeah, not a marquee matchup.
Yeah.
Like, this is a division that I care about, kind of, because it's my secondary team is the Bengals. Being
true.
Yeah. So that's nothing I'm passionate about, though. But still, so it's like, I'll kind of watch those kinds of games normally. But last night when I saw who it was, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch something else entirely. I'm never gonna mess with this game. So Catel's missing a sleeper.
My AFC rooting interest is also in your division. I'm a really big Ravens and Lamar Jackson fan. So yeah.
And they don't have the same kind of like blood history with the Bengals that the Browns and the Steelers do. I mean, I respect the Ravens for sure.
Yeah. I've always liked them. Even before they had Lamar, just because they're an organization it seems very similar to the Packers. They're they do things a very certain way. They stick to their process. They don't really care about any kind of outside criticism or anything. They have a process, it works, and they stick to it. So it's a very similarly run.
Yeah, that's probably very true. And culturally, Baltimore and not Wisconsin's so many different segments of Wisconsin, but like Baltimore and Milwaukee would kind of culturally remind me of one another.
Oh, definitely. And the teams themselves have a good relationship. Like the Packers have their head scout, Goody brought him over from Baltimore. So they're two teams that they even have a good working relationship together.
Oh, that's good to know. There was a point at the very end of the game. What the heck happened? I mean, I couldn't even believe I still had it on. There was something with the refs making a call, and it was like a minute later, and they were still all waiting for the call, and it wouldn't have made any difference anyway. And there was like 3 seconds. I don't know.
It turned into the end of it did the classic thing where the last 3 minutes of the game take 45 minutes because the refs, the refs have to put their stamp on the game. So all the reviews took forever and there was confusion. Yeah. It didn't help the Thursday night bad football products.
No, it was really, you didn't miss anything, Matt. I will say, I took a recommendation from one of our previous guests because we do review podcasts that are mostly NFL related, but sometimes not. And one of our previous guests, I think it was Dusty, recommended a podcast called Tooth and Claw. And it's stories
No, John
about.
Meerdink. John Meerdink recommended that
Oh,
one.
was it John?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it might be John too, because Dusty didn't seem to know what I was talking about.
You're like, that explains why
John.
you sounded so confused when I asked.
He's like, oh yeah, I want to watch that. Anyway, or listen. I started listening to it last night. Finally. Oh my goodness. Have you listened at all, Maddie?
I haven't, but Monty, this is about like animal attacks, is what the podcast is
Oh,
about.
interesting.
Yeah.
You had my attention.
Yeah.
Wild animal
Okay.
attacks. Okay, not like dogs and cats. We all know we all know I'm going to die by my cat killing me. But,
Just hold on a second, Monty. That's a real thing. Her cat is actually actively trying to kill her. It's a slow process. Cats, they'll bide their time, but
yeah,
we've seen it happening. Like, yeah, this is real.
Does it sneak up on you while you're recording and just like we're gonna see a paw come around the corner?
No, she's not. She's very nice. She wouldn't do that. But she did put me in the hospital a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
But I was trying to give her a bath.
Oh, okay. Well, in according to her friends, you deserved it then.
Exactly. It was just. Well, Monty, we like to hear about origin stories here on Hey, We Like Your Pod. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more how you came to be such a rabid Packers fan. Even though you're living in where are you living? You're living in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm
right?
in Phoenix. So yeah, I was born in Milwaukee, suburban Milwaukee, so Brown Deer. My whole dad's side of the family is from Milwaukee, and a good number of them still live there. But so I lived in Wisconsin until I was about 10. But I lived most of my life in Illinois. We moved there when I was like, maybe 10, 11. So I lived out there from 10 to 28, and then I moved out, 10 to 31, and I moved out here in 2018. So I've been in the Midwest most of my life, but my sports allegiances kind of follow, how I grew up. Like I'm diehard number one, like all my Wisconsin teams are first, but I have a soft rooting interest for the Bulls because I grew up in Chicago in the 90s, right? I mean, it's impossible. How am I not going to like the Bulls, right? So they're a secondary rooting interest, but I love the Brewers. I also love the White Sox because loving both of those two teams doesn't conflict with each other. They don't play each other very often unless they happen to be in the World Series, which that would be great to me. But yeah, I'm mostly loyal to all Wisconsin teams, but Bucks and Packers are my main interests, and I have like a passive interest in the other sports.
I can totally respect liking the White Sox. I lived in Chicago for 6 years.
Okay.
And it's the people's team, man. The Cubs,
yeah,
no, man. And then like it's when you go around Wrigley Field after a game, it's just like douches everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
basically. I mean, basically, I decided I liked Frank Thomas more than I liked Sammy Sosa. So there we go. Like that was I chose the White Sox. Yeah.
So what brought you out to Arizona? This seems like a really like radical shift.
Yeah, so I had two really good friends that live here that I would come visit. I think I came to visit them like 4 or 5 years in a row. And I decided I really like it out here. So if I ever get the opportunity, I would totally move out here. And then I got a chance to transfer out here for work. So as soon as that came up, I jumped on it.
Nice.
Yeah. Haven't looked back.
Of course, there's some really good content creators out there. Like Jason Prone lives out there. Todd used to for a while, I know.
Yeah, Todd was here for a little bit. Tyler Herrick lives out here.
I wasn't sure if he lived there just because he's a flight attendant. If he just is there a lot or whatever, he actually lives there. Okay.
Yeah, his home base is here. But yeah, so he's all over the place. But yeah, there's a few people that live out here, and Phoenix in general. I'm sure you guys know is a lot of transplants. So
that's right.
One of the first things I ask when I meet someone new out here is, are you from Phoenix or where are you from? And it's very rare that someone says, oh, I'm born and raised here. So
for sure. Same here. It's out here. It's
San Diego. Yeah.
Used to be when I first got here, and that was many, many years ago, it was like 80% transplants, maybe 20% homegrown. But
yeah,
of course, I mean, people my age have had kids and grandkids, so now they can call themselves homegrown, but they really aren't.
Right.
It's funny because it's the opposite for Cincinnati, because Cincinnati brings its people back in. Like it always
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of recollects its
The mid-
children.
I've always said the Midwest is the #1 region for people leaving and coming back.
Yeah.
Like people either don't leave and stay there forever,
Mhm.
or they end up coming back. It's just
Definitely the case. I mean, I
it's
think
just
the
a
people,
Midwest thing.
it really is. Yeah. I mean, the people in Cincinnati who didn't grow up here are just married to people who did, I think is how it works
Yep.
out. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Monte, so Hey Willip is all about relationships, especially Twitter relationships and community. So we'd love to hear the story behind that photo with our Wayne Larrivee of the Green Bay Packers that
Of
we used
course.
for our thumbnail. Tell us about that.
So I'm sure you guys are aware, there's that group that the Packers have called Packers Everywhere.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they typically go to, I think they go like 4 or 5 games a year, and they
Yeah.
always will do road games.
Yeah.
So last year it was the Packers Cardinals game. So I went to the Packers Everywhere pep rally, and Wayne is always part of those. So it's always Wayne and then 2 or 3 players. And last year it was James Jones and Robert Brooks.
Cool.
So they went to one of the more popular Packers bars in Phoenix called Local Patron. It was great. Yeah, it was they always the day before the game. Huge turnout. So I went with Tyler, and we got there probably almost an hour before the festivities actually kicked off. And even still, it was standing room only. Like we couldn't get a table. It was crazy. And that Packers fans are rabid. So
Yes.
yeah, it was great. We caught Wayne on his way in. We're like, hey, can we get a picture? And he took one with us. So it was super nice.
Awesome. You caught Wayne, and then later Rasul Douglas caught the game-winning interception.
Oh, that was such a great game. That was our turning point, right?
It was the most fun thing about that game was, other than obviously the fact that they won, afterwards, where State Farm Stadium is, it's in an area where it's the stadium's there, and then there's an entire like area around it. Think like Titletown, but bigger, like the Titletown district, where it's just a bunch of bars and stuff. But you could have convinced me that I was in Wisconsin after that game at any given bar, because all the Packers fans took over every single bar in the area.
Nice.
So after the game, it was great.
Packers fans are rabid.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, and the Packer fans pretty much took over the game that night.
Oh, of course,
I remember watching it. The commentators were talking about
it had to be nearly 60-40.
That's great. I want to make it to one of those pep rallies. And did you meet the girl who what's her name? Oh my gosh.
Yes, Rebecca Zacard, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, she's super nice.
She's on our guest list for our podcast here.
Oh, really?
So one of these days, our
Nice.
guest list.
Oh, that's perfect.
Our guest list is just ridiculously long. Like we're booked up the whole year already.
I've always said that she is like a dream job, right? You just travel around the
I
country,
know, it's
and
fun.
you get to travel with the team and like hype people up for the game. That's a dream job.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? I should probably lose her voice every night. Okay, so Monte, we want our audience to get to know your amazingness a little bit more. And so what we do is we start by reading your Twitto. Your Twitto reads, well, I'm not sure. Does your Twitto read this Monte Moore, or did I put that in there? I think I did that for my own.
I believe it. It might read that.
It might read it. Okay. How did because your name changes all the time. Like what is his name?
I gotta keep people on their toes. That's
right. I love it. So it's at Ferd __ Turgeson.
Yes. And if anybody wants to know a backstory on that, I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan, rest in peace. But he was Celebrity Jeopardy. He used to be on SNL all the time when he used to be Burt Reynolds, and there was a couple episodes where he made his name Turd Ferguson. Right. And I couldn't take that name. It was taken already. So I had to just I switched the letters around, but I have resolved to never change it, because that is my standing tribute to Norm Macdonald.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And did Aaron Rodgers do something with Ferd Ferguson or Turd Ferguson?
I believe there was one of those years where where they do before the season, they all dress up. He did dress as a cowboy, and
Okay.
people said he looked like
Oh,
Turd
I
Ferguson,
suppose so, yeah.
but but he was just he had a cowboy in his Canadian tuxedo. He was wearing all denim, so but
okay.
that he looked pretty much just like him.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so and also sports takes, low tolerance for idiocy. They
Yes.
often overlap. That makes sense.
Turns out.
1/3 of Last Call Lambo for Game On Wisconsin, and part-time contributor for Cheesehead TV.
Yes.
And you're a metalhead.
Yes. That
And
is
your location is set to Del Boca Vista Phase 3.
yeah, so if anyone are you guys Seinfeld fans?
I got it. I got it. So maybe
Okay.
you explain it. Maybe
So,
explain because it's adorable. I love that.
yeah, so in Seinfeld, which is one of my absolute favorite shows, I can't tell you how many times I've seen every episode. Um, where Jerry's parents live in Florida is Del Boca Vista Phase 3. So I set that to my location, and I always say if people look at it and they get the reference, then I'm friends with you because that means I know you have good tastes.
So, like, if you could, if it was real, if it was a real place, if you could live in Del Boca Vista Phase 3, how long do
when
you think you would last as a
when I
resident?
well, I was gonna say when I get to retirement age, I feel like I could make it there.
Okay.
I know Kramer half retired and moved down there, but then he had to move back. So then I can't do it until I'm of retirement age. That episode showed me.
All right. I'd probably last even at retirement age, which I already practically am, and probably wouldn't last very long in a retirement community. I just can't see. I don't think they'd have me either. So cool. So okay, so you're into fitness. Are you into fitness, bodybuilding? I know if that, you've got
Um,
that profile picture of you.
my my like one of my biggest hobbies, I do Olympic weightlifting.
Ooh.
So yeah, so that's I don't know, I got into it maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm fairly like independent and introverted. So the one of the things I like about it is it's a very solitary sport. I don't
Mm,
need like a gym buddy to do it.
right.
It's a very mental sport. So
Mhm.
it helps me like focus and like kind of like zero in mentally. So it's kind of
Mhm.
I definitely use, my training as a type of like stress relief.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably my biggest hobby. It takes up most of my time.
And I'll admit, like every time one of those videos comes across my timeline, I will always mash like for that, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate it. I
Impressive.
appreciate it.
And I love that you mentioned how, sports really can be really help us mentally and become more focused. It not just during the sport, but in everything that we do. Sports are
Yeah.
super helpful to me that way. Very good. So are you a writer for Cheesehead TV? How do you contribute to Cheesehead?
So occasionally I will do just like quick wrap up videos for them,
Mm,
whether it be, cover what happened in a game or press conferences, just kind of, let's say you missed coverage all day, like you didn't get to catch Aaron Nagler doing daily, you didn't get to read any articles, but you get home late at night and you're like, I wonder if anything happened today, and you log onto YouTube and you see there's a 6-minute video,
cool.
right? Like, so that's what I like to just sum up any kind of important stuff for the day, just kind of keep it short and sweet. And yeah, they reached out to me, asked if I wanted to do that, and yeah, I enjoy it. It's nice.
Yeah, and of course you do great work with it. I've caught a lot of those. It's such a great concept too, because sometimes it's just so much news comes out and it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
you get chunks and like lenses on it from different beat reporters, and just trying to like figure out what happened from all that can be confusing sometimes. So yeah, I've
yeah,
really enjoyed your work with those.
and I know every team, all teams throughout all sports have a lot of content creation, but there's just so much in the Packers sphere
Hmm.
where there's no way you can consume all of it. So as much stuff that gets summed up as possible, I feel like is good, because there's so many good content creators and there's so much stuff to cover.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Finding a one-stop shop is like pretty rare. So
Yeah.
So much content. Try as we might to consume it all on this show.
Yeah,
We talk
I was
about
gonna
it.
say you guys definitely know. You're that's the basis of what we're doing right here.
Exactly.
That's right. We try.
Man, Don, just this week I made the brilliant decision to add another podcast into my feed. So I was like, you know what? Why am I not listening to Justice Mosqueda's podcast and like all the stuff that they're doing on Acme
Mhm.
Packing Company? It's like, how am I gonna have the time to listen to this? But I'll
Yep.
figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to be willing to stay up 2 or 3 hours past when you normally go to bed to consume everything. So
It's like every available second, I've got the headphones in. It's like if
yeah,
I'm getting breakfast
Yeah.
ready for the kids, or like on my way to work, or like eating lunch, or like anything, washing. Like I'll be like, I'll wash the dishes, honey. It's fine. Listen to a podcast.
I'm more willing. I'm loyal to the ones that I listen to, but I sometimes will put certain ones off and listen to new. My thing
Sure. Mhm.
personally, my personal challenge to myself is to listen to something new
Okay.
at least every week.
yeah,
And that means, I have to let go.
right. You
of
got to
some
bump
of it.
something
And
down
not
the
just
list.
Packers content, but just in general. It's like
Yeah.
there's only so much time in the
Yeah,
day. So I get really excited every time something's new. But and then what I do is I tend to binge. Like if it's not news related,
right. Yeah,
like Tooth and Claw, I'll probably mention it 6 more times. I just thoroughly enjoyed
Or like,
listening to one episode, and then like, then they had the one about the poor. It's really sad, but you can't, the way they do it, it's hilarious because it's just, you have to hear it. I don't want to tell you why, but also, so I had to do this 2-part series they did on the baby and the dingo dog in Australia.
the dingo ate your baby.
yeah, exactly.
But it really did. But it
yeah,
really
that's a
did.
true story.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a really true story. And not only that, it ends up being a true crime story.
Mm-hmm.
And it also ends up being a innocence project type. So because
Oh,
is it also
really?
legal stuff,
all of
Don?
it.
This is all
Yeah,
of
that's
the
It
innocent.
has
yeah, it's all
everything I'm
encompassing.
interested in.
It's covering all the genres.
It's got it
all
all.
of Don's favorite genres.
I know. God. Anyway. So, and the only thing I haven't had a chance to see where these, but the mom did get put in jail and unjustly and la la la, and so she got out. I hope she's still alive, but it was really a sad. I mean, because this was in the late 70s, I think, or 80s,
I feel like
early 80s.
true crime. I feel like true crime in sports pretty much not saved the podcast genre, but definitely helped it take off.
Yeah.
You know
Between
what
that
I mean?
and COVID happening, yeah.
Yes, yeah, COVID too for sure. Just like it's of my opinion that YouTube saved music videos because MTV wasn't doing any music videos. I don't even know if VH1 exists anymore, but no one was playing music videos. Then YouTube came out, exploded, and now artists are making music videos again.
Yeah. Every Friday morning, we actually put on, like, each kid gets to choose a music video to watch with breakfast.
Oh, that's cool.
And we watch them on YouTube,
Yeah.
So like, exactly.
Yeah, there's no other place to find them because if you turn on MTV, you're probably watching a reality show.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. No, YouTube has it all. I'm a big fan of YouTube.
Yeah.
So, okay, so for those who are not familiar with Last Call Lambo,
what are you gonna do with your lives? What are you gonna do?
Could you describe the experience of what it is and also how you contribute?
Sure. So the basis of our show is we want it to be like when you're at the bar with your friends talking Packers, right? So it's very, very informal. We have a structure, which is basically we build a drink on the show. So we start with the most important part, which is the booze, which now that we're in season is always going to be a game preview. And then we do the mixer, which is still somewhat related, but not necessarily as important. And what we've been doing is what non-Packers game we're most looking forward to and what non-Packers game we're least looking forward to. So basically your other most exciting or least exciting game of the week. And then the garnish is when we just kind of do whatever we want. It's always the fun part. So for example, this week, it was the first day of fall yesterday. So we built a fall festival related to NFL related things. So, which players would be running the hayride, which player would run the haunted house and all that stuff.
What could possibly go wrong?
So yeah, it's generally the most fun I have all week. Aaron and Sam are
Aw.
amazing. I know you guys have had them both on here before,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Tonight, in
Yeah.
fact, we finally have the full set of
Yeah,
Let's Call Lambo
Yes.
hosts.
I completed the Bermuda Triangle.
We'll eventually have Jimmy Christensen on, and we'll have all of OBOT covered then too.
There we go. Yep.
Mhm.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really super informal, and we just want it to be, when you're listening to it, we say we'd like you to, like, you're overhearing a conversation at the bar. So
And I really
I
love
like
how it
that.
like evolved to where it is because, of course, starting with Four Downs
Yes.
last season, which was
Yep.
for the listeners who don't know, it was Monty and Aaron. And then there was like near the end of the season, you had Sam on as a guest
guest,
host, right? Yeah, and I was like, man, they got some great chemistry. And then like lo and behold, you all knew that, and
Yeah,
like,
we
started
had
the show with her.
we had Sam on because like we had both been, I don't know, friends with her on Twitter for a while, and then as soon as we had her on, like I messaged Aaron like the next day, and I was like, should we just have her like permanently? Like that was great. And then we messaged her, and she's like, absolutely. So yeah, and that's how it took off.
I love it so much, and like Erin is definitely, I don't know if I've said this like on the show before. Like, I think I told her, I first started listening to her stuff when she was with doing Whiskoholics, which of course became on brand off topic.
Yep.
And for me, it was like, Erin's a really funny person on Twitter. Like, I think I'd like to listen to a podcast she's on. And just now it's like anything she does, I'm like, oh, I'm going to listen to that for sure.
It's musty, must-see TV, for lack of a better phrase.
And like it brings me back around to a different thing. Before we were talking about like podcasts that are good for like binging because they're not necessarily like news specific, that are like tied to like the week that we're in for like the season,
right?
So there's this great podcast called Watching Stuff, right? And these brilliant people talking about comics, about the MCU movies, which it's been really great actually. And that's a good one because it's like if I get to the end of the week and I don't have any podcasts left, which is rare, but it does happen some weeks. It's like, oh, let's just get caught up to the next episode of Watching Stuff that I've been
Yeah, that has been a lot of fun. So Aaron, Dusty, and I do the Watching Stuff pod, and Dusty and I are big comic book nerds who have seen all the MCU movies. Aaron just recently has gone through them all. So we had a group chat for a while about, just Marvel stuff. So we said, we're talking about this stuff every week. What if we just met once every other week and recorded it? So it's been great. Yeah. So we do every other week. We're going through the MCU in release order. And yeah, if you're interested in comic book nerd stuff, you'll love it. It's generally about an hour, but it's just Easter eggs from the movies and like what we thought about it, how, and at the end we rate the movies, and we rate them on a basis of a movie as a standalone, like by itself, and then like how do we rate it in relation to the rest of the Marvel movies.
And I love that you and Dusty have such like a deep well of comic book knowledge, because I mean, a lot of people who like the MCU, like myself, are really into the movies, but don't know that
the backstory.
Exactly. And like, I'll go into Wikipedia and try to read through like an article, but they're so confusing and twisty and weird. It's like, this is going all over the place. I can't follow this.
If you go down the Marvel wiki rabbit hole, you'll be up all night. Like,
I have literally done that.
Yeah.
that has been my experience. Yes.
That's one rabbit hole I have not gone down yet. I've been down many, many, many. All right, well, let's switch on over to our signature superlative segment, something.
Yeah,
part. Like that. Yeah, because it's getting dark and I've got to skedaddle. So,
oh my goodness.
So this is the time during our show where we talk about content that we've created that we didn't create, that we did not create.
Consumed it.
Consumed throughout the week that you really don't want to miss out on. And if you did miss out on it, you can always go back and replay most content. And if you did consume it, maybe you'll like to hear some of our takes. So I understand our guest Monte has brought some superlatives. So Monte, would you like to get us started with your first superlative?
So I am taking somewhat the easy way out. I'm going to use one from my own show that we recorded last night. Our drinking rule for the show is making color puns. So any reference to blue in the face, seeing red, blah blah blah. But I'm gonna give Aaron the color me bad superlative because she decimated Sam and I with puns last night. Like
on
they
fire.
were,
Of
yeah,
course.
they were rapid fire, and we almost couldn't keep up. So she wins that award this week for sure.
It was really great work that she did.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Erin. She's so fun. She's so fun. All right, so now I have to replay that, and that was last call Lambo.
Yes.
Okay, that's on my list for tonight when Taj keeps me up all night.
There you go.
Anyway,
Yep. It's a fun episode. I'm about halfway through it myself. I was really enjoying it. So looking forward to hearing the rest of it tomorrow. Definitely.
okay, Maddie, do you have one?
Yeah. So we're going round robin. Let's do this. All right.
Yeah.
So I have 2 for this week. I'll do one of them here, of course. The first one I have is going to be most surprisingly fascinating conversation. So, I generally try to focus on smaller things for content creators that are as well known on the show, of course, but every now and then something happens that you just have to talk about that's on a bigger platform. So this week, one of the episodes of the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays, he was talking to, I don't have the guy's name on the top of my head, but a guy who does a podcast about the media. Okay. They're talking about the shifting landscape of the announcers who are on what networks, how the product is being packaged, what things look like, why Amazon is in the game now for having football, this whole entire media landscape right now. It was so fascinating. I turned that on, I'll just check this out when I'm washing dishes and listen to it. But I was riveted. It was really, really good one. So that was the episode from, I want to say it's from Wednesday. But of course, links will be in the show notes as always. But just it was so good. And the way they talked about, what do Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, bring to a thing? What is the sort of gravitas, that Al Michaels has, and why does it mean something to us, and how does it resonate with people? And
was it kind of more of how what styles each broadcast team uses?
Yeah, and how it has evolved, and how why did Amazon take Buck and Aikman? It's they're trying to build something that feels like football. That's this is a legitimate thing. This isn't some dog and pony. Oh, we'll do football. Yeah, some startup exactly. They want to seem legit from the jump. And I mean, I think we've seen they, especially the first 2 weeks games, right? Both seemed just absolutely legit games.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I can't remember the last time there was this much broadcast reshuffling, right? Where people are moving networks and all that stuff. So yeah, we're definitely in a unique time, because I'm in my mid-30s. So for my whole life, it was when I was younger, it was Summerall and Madden, but then from then it's always been Buck and Aikman on Fox, and now it's almost weird watching Fox and not hearing those guys.
But Greg Olson's great though, huh? You guys like him?
He is. Yeah, I do like him a lot.
Yeah, I like a little bit of shuffling. Honestly, I get bored with. I get tired of hearing the same people all.
And as Packers fans, we hear a lot of Buck and Aikman. They have Packers are always playing in the afternoon slot, right? So they've gotten so many of their games over the years.
Right, because we're in prime time.
Yeah.
Which is why, and if you're listening to this show as a regular, you know that I don't listen to Buck and Aikman. I put them on mute, and I listen to Packers radio, and I get to listen to Wayne and what's his name,
Larry.
Which I always say. Why do I forget his name?
How big is the delay normally? You have to pause it for 10 seconds.
But it is, but it's good for me because I can see what happened on the field. And then I can
hear it.
No, wait, how's it go?
Yeah, you hear it first.
I hear it first.
Yeah, the radio's got to be ahead.
Yes,
yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, now I know.
Oh, nice.
Otherwise, I'm just like, oh, what is that?
You hear it explained, then you see it. Yeah,
it works for me. It works. Plus, I can't. And it's not anything personally against those. It's just. Yeah, I just like some freshness to.
Yeah, I mean, no one will blame you for rather listening to Wayne and Larry. They're legends. So
exactly,
they're amazing.
They're the best.
Yes.
They're so fun.
They're the best.
They're so fun. Okay, my first superlative is going to be the most toasty, and this goes to Greg Meinholz.
Meinholz.
I'm terrible with those kind of German.
Greg Meinholz.
Meinholz. For Packers Talk. And he does a series that's absolutely delightful. He calls it Toasts and Roasts. And so what Greg does is he likens any particular beer to any particular like play.
Oh,
To,
interesting.
yeah, it's kind of cool. Cool
I
little
like that.
parallel. So I'm going to give you an example. So he does let's see. I should have had this highlighted, but I don't. So for example, for toasts, Aaron Jones. The first toast goes to Aaron Jones. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because I want you to read it. That's why we're here. But the first toast went to Aaron Jones. I'm going to raise a nice new Glarus Nectar Ale in his direction. So he gives an actual beer. He explains why about the player's performance and then the performance of the beer. So it's a kind of a nice review of brews as well as the team.
Yeah, that's unique. I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. I love a good metaphor. You know, it's just you can taste it, and then the roasts. So, you know, as with anything that we mention here in our superlatives, the links will be in our show notes, so you can actually take a look at these yourself. So that's my first one. It's most toasty.
I love that, Don. I'm glad that you bring up Greg because he's a really good dude, a really good follow on Twitter. And I'm trying to remember who it was. Somebody actually shouted him out. One of our guests last season mentioned him actually. But yeah, I like Greg a lot actually. So I'll have to check that out too. I haven't actually read much of his stuff yet.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, and like we were saying, that whatever unique niche you can find is appreciated because, like we said, there's so much content creation, and not only is there so much of it is good. So it's not even like, oh, I'm only gonna listen to the good stuff because there's a lot of good stuff.
It's right. Anybody who bothers to put anything out there, you know what? My hat's off to you. I'm not gonna. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, and like what you were saying, Monty, too earlier, it's worth mentioning that there's a lot like the part that you do for Cheesehead TV. Not everybody has time to read everything and go through it. Nobody does, really. Nobody does. Even people who have more time. So that that's kind of what Matt and I came together to do. It's like, hey, well, we'll just take the boat, and we don't collaborate. Like we don't know what each other is bringing until the very last minute.
And we almost never have the same thing, which I think is
almost never.
Right, yeah, which is a testament to what you guys are doing, right? There's so much to cover. You don't have to meet first and figure it out.
That's right.
We don't meet first. We don't talk about what we're going to do, and we don't edit. So this is what you're going to get.
That's perfect. That is exactly how we operate on both of the things that I do with watching stuff and last call.
Oh gosh. Okay, Monte, did you bring another superlative?
The other one I had was I wanted to give the I didn't think of a clever name for this, but it had to be said award for Andy Herman this week, talking about the Bakhtiari situation because like he was totally right. The discourse surrounding him has gotten ridiculous at this point, and it needed to be said. Just the people that are out there thinking that he's purposefully not coming back, or the team knows that he won't come back but keeps telling us that he will. Like, people have to calm down because nobody wants. There's no matter how much you want him to be playing, you don't want him to be playing more than he wants to be playing. So I felt that video was more than needed. Yeah. I know Andy's videos have a huge audience every day, so he was the perfect one to go out there and say that because it had to be said.
And I think calling it it had to be said, superlative, I think is a good name, but you could have also gone with clapping Bach.
Yeah. That is way better.
Well, I would call it most daddy-like.
That's true too. Yeah,
sure.
He came across very parental.
I felt like that's our daddy saying that. That's our pod father giving us all the what for. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah, it's kind of like even if you weren't part of that, you were like, okay, Dad, okay.
Yeah, and and that's the other thing, right? There's no way that you have, if you're on Twitter, like you've seen the discourse, like even if you don't participate, it's unavoidable. So just people need to, just kind of remain as level-headed as possible. I know,
Oh yeah.
fan is short for fanatic, right? So we're rarely level-headed, but sometimes there's just like an obvious demarcation line.
Sometimes it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, Maddie, bring it home with the final superlative.
Oh, you have another one, don't you, Don?
Nope, you're the last.
Okay, I'll do it. I got it. So my other one then was coolest guest star. So this is also like a really big platform podcast that I'm talking about here. It was Justice Mosqueda got to be on with Mina Kimes. I know it's not the first time he has been. And in fact, he gets name checked by Robert Mays, Nate Tice, and Mina Kimes on a fairly regular basis. And I was like, hey, it's Justice. We know him. He's part of our community. So I thought that was, first of all, awesome because they were saying he was going to be on. So like I was like waiting for it to come, happen.
Yeah.
I'm excited to listen to it. And then the reason why I got excited about it is because, like, frankly, Justice is one of the brightest football minds in the Packers sphere.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, the work he does is top notch. Yeah. Top notch. It's such a silly thing. It's top notch. Very sound stuff. Good show. But no, he's exceptional. His work is exceptional. So it was really cool, like hearing somebody who, like, we see around Twitter a lot, like, conversing with Mina Kimes and sounding super smart doing it. It was a great episode.
Yeah, we had him on. He's like my favorite, draft guy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did our last Call Lambo show ahead of the draft, we were like, we got to have Justice on because we want somebody on that can talk about every player in the draft if we have to. So we earmarked him to come on, and he's a wealth of knowledge with all the draft stuff.
And that was such a fun episode because it started off, he seemed like he was like, let's do business here, but then he kind of like warmed into being like sillier and stuff like that as episode went. So
he eased into a little bit. It's like getting into a hot tub, right? Like as soon as like once you're all the way in, like you're comfortable, and then like things just started flowing. It was great.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
That's fantastic. Wow. Those are some great superlatives, you guys. And again, if you're listening, you can find all the links for those that you can check out on your own in our show notes, wherever you're watching, on YouTube, Twitter Live, or on our podcast or Facebook, Facebook.
All the places.
Or on our podcast, which drops every Saturday morning. And it also has show notes, so you can link to those as well there. So, gosh, Monte, Ferd, Carney. Sorry, I lost it.
What's happening?
That's okay.
Whoever you are this week.
I just changed it yesterday. Actually, this morning. So
that's
no.
Why.
Yeah.
That's why. When I went to send you messages, I'm like, where is this guy? I had to go to your profile and find out where you were. Anyway, I hope you can come back again because it seems like we have so much more to talk about.
I would love to.
I feel like I know you. I feel like, I'm sure we know each other from Twitter, of course, but it's just really been fun bonding with you, which is what we love to do here on our show. And thank you again for spending time with us, Maddie.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, just echo Don saying, of course, Monte, I've been listening to your stuff for a long time, interacting with you on Twitter for a while now. So like to have the chance to actually sit down and talk with you, this has been great. I'm so happy you're able to join us. All right, Don, well, I'll hit the wrap up on here. So friends, make sure you're following Monte on Twitter. So this is FERD_TURGESON, Ferd Turgeson. Can't find a better follow than Monte here on
No,
Twitter,
you can't.
So really can't. And of course, you'll find links in our show description for everyone we mentioned. So please check it out. Whether you're a super fan or content creator, we'd love to have a chance to interview you. So if you're a subscriber, our DMs are open. Hey Willip on the social platforms. We'd love to hear from you or someone you'd like to nominate to be a guest on our podcast this year. That is right, folks. If you want to be on the podcast, let us know. We'd love to have you on. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
That's absolutely right, Maddie. And we love you. We're so glad to know you and to be fans of you and to be fans of the most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.